recording has started.
Yeah, hello and welcome to the 53rd edition of Trends Talks. As you know, we have been doing these sessions during the pandemic and taking up topics of interest to common people and things that affect them. So today's session is going to be on the insolvency professional, who is being done by Rajesh Sheth, who is a retired banker from State Bank of India for more than 39 years. He's got the experience in various sections, be it in credit, NPA, and resolution management. So today is going to specifically talk about the insolvency and the bankruptcy code, which is in place, and it's going to affect a lot of people. And he's also going to speak about the professionalism of the IP practitioners and how we can actually become one. So it's over to you, Mr. Sheth.
Yeah, thank you, Gopal Krishnan. I have been following your popular channel called Trend Talks on YouTube, and in the past you have covered a variety of topics from ranging from health, fitness, or so many other cultural and business related issues also. So thank you for once again inviting me to talk to your subscribers and general audience. And I will talk today about what is the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016, and how since this is going to affect a large number of people, that is companies and creditors, and how does one get into this, that is how if one decides to take up this as a career, how to get into this insolvency thing. So let me begin. I will be showing a presentation for around 20 minutes, and which later on you can ask any questions relating to my presentation, and I will be glad to answer that. So first I will explain the what is the process under Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, that is IBC in brief. So this as I told you, this Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code applies to the presently to companies, that is private limited, public limited companies who have taken loans from the various creditors, and if they are not able to service the loan, that is if they default, then what should be the process for the resolution of the loans taken by them, and how to ensure that their going concern status. So all this is covered under IBC. And further, apart from companies, there is one more category that is notified, that is guarantors who have guaranteed such loan to the companies. So if the companies don't pay the loan, then even creditors, that is banks or financial creditors, can proceed against the guarantors of such loan. So that is under individual insolvency. And in future, this IBC will extend to individuals as well as partnership also. But right now, government has not notified those sections. So we'll limit our today's discussion to companies and individuals who are guarantors to the company's loan. So the process starts with filing of application by any creditor, that is financial creditor like banks, NBFC, or operational creditor who have supplied any goods or services to the company and their loan has not been serviced. And if the court, that is National Company Law Tribunal, NCLT, is satisfied with the eligibility criteria like amount and proof of the loan and all that, then they will admit the application, and that is how the commencement of insolvency proceeding starts. This proceeding is called CIRP, that is Company Insolvency Law Resolution Process, Corporate Insolvency Resolution Process, CIRP. So once that case is admitted by NCLT, then moratorium kicks in. Then during the moratorium, no new cases can be filed against the company. I will come to that in detail in the next slide. And once the moratorium kicks in, then the custody of the company is given to insolvency resolution professional, IRP, and by after 1 month he becomes resolution professional. So he will control the entire company, including the operations of bank account, and the promoters will no more control the company. And here the resolution professional, IRP, will invite the claims from creditors, including statutory authorities or any other agency who have given like sale tax authority or exercise authority, who have the dues from the company. And once the claims are received within 1 month, a committee of creditor is constituted with the approval of NCLT. And who will sit in the committee of creditor is the financial creditor like banks, NBFC, or even the in case of real estate project, suppose home buyers are there, large number of home buyers, so they cannot sit in the everybody cannot sit in committee of creditor. So one authorized representative of home buyers or debenture holders or fixed deposit holder is also permitted to sit in the committee of creditor on behalf of the class of creditor. So thereafter, the resolution professional will prepare an information memorandum giving the snapshot of the company on the commencement date of the this entire CIRP, and this will include asset liability, including any litigation faced by the company. Thereafter, the next stage, that is very important stage, the resolution professional will try to invite resolution applicant, that is a general investor, to invest in the company and address the debts of the company. And for that, eligibility criteria is fixed, and evaluation matrix is also fixed in advance, and expression of interest is called by the resolution professional to invite resolution plan from the resolution applicant. And once these resolution plans are submitted by resolution applicant, then the committee of creditor will study that viability of the plan, and if they are okay, and they will vote in favor of the plan. And if 66% of the committee of creditor they approve the plan, then the plan will be filed in the NCLT, and if they approve the plan, it will be implemented, and that is how the debts will be addressed, resolved. So this was the process in brief. And next thing is what is the meaning of this moratorium. So once the insolvency resolution professional is appointed, the moratorium starts. So during this moratorium, no loan can be recovered by enforcing security interest on the assets of corporate debtor. Many times it is, and no suit can be filed against the company during the moratorium, and all the existing suit will be kept in abeyance, and no asset can be disposed of or transferred which is owned by the corporate debtor. Many times it also happens that this company is having some license, permit, or registration, or it is occupying any place based on a rental. So during this insolvency proceeding is commenced and moratorium is started, all these license and all this cannot be suspended or terminated. So the status quo will continue. Now you will ask what is the eligibility criteria to become insolvency professional. Suppose a general person wants to enter into this field and wants to become insolvency professional, then the minimum criteria is 10 years experience as a chartered accountant or cost accountant or company secretary or advocate. So any of these four categories, if they are having relevant experience of 10 years, they can become an insolvency professional. Further, any other, one more category is there, that those who have worked in a senior management position and those who are also having a bachelor degree, like me, I was working in a State Bank of India for more than 15 years. So people like me also are eligible, and provided we have 15 years experience. And both these category have to pass a limited insolvency exam of Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, that is IBBI, and it is an online exam which will test the knowledge of law. I will come to that in detail in the next slides. And after passing the exam, you have to get registered with IBBI and complete a pre-registration course of 30 hours from any of the agencies listed approved by the IBBI. So that is how you become insolvency professional. So what is the role of IRP or RP in CIRP? In my first slide, I have covered briefly, but again I will explain in detail. This entire IBC is a law to govern insolvency of corporate as well as individual partnership and limited partnership. But presently only the law is notified for corporates and individual, and partnership and limited partnership are yet to be notified. Then any creditors can approach NCLT for initiation of CIRP or individual insolvency resolution process. And once NCLT satisfies itself, then NCLT appoints either IRP or RP, which is recommended by committee of creditors. And the IRP and later on RP will run the entire process with the aim to ensure the going concern status and resolve the debt which is taken by the company. And many times, sometimes it happens that this entire resolution process fails, then it will result in the liquidation of the company. So here the insolvency professional can act as an insolvency resolution professional or resolution professional or liquidator or bankruptcy trustee in individual process. So that is the role of IRP or RP in this process. Now I will come to the exam point of view, that the syllabus which is right now notified is for limited insolvency exam is from 1st January 2021. And there are this syllabus can be changed, amended or modified by the government by acts of parliament or any rule. So up to 31st December, whatever is in force, that will be part of this syllabus. Now, what is the format of exam? Whether it is a particularly in the time of this pandemic, this is very important to know that examination will be conducted online and in a computer-based environment, and with objective multiple choice questions. And duration of the exam is 2 hours, and there will be total 89 questions in 2 hours with a total 100 marks. And mind well, there will be also negative marking of 25% of mark assigned for the question. And minimum passing marks for the examination is 60%. That means out of 100 marks, minimum you should get 60 marks. Then only you will be considered as a pass. And on passing immediately online, certificate is awarded by the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board. And mark sheet also will be given online, and no workbook or study material will be provided during the exam. Now you may ask, what is the frequency of the exam? Means how frequently this exam is taken. Now examination is online, so anytime you have to just book a slot and appear for the exam. And examination centers are available at various locations and state capital, metropolitan city, etc. And you have to go to the examination center to appear for the exam, and from there it is online. So candidate needs to enroll on IBBI website. I have given the address www.ibbi.gov in for the examination, and choose the slot. and the fees are only 1,500 for each exam. Means suppose once you appear for exam and if you pass, that is okay. But if you by chance fail, then again you have to pay 1,500 for next exam. Now, what is the syllabus for the exam? This syllabus is insolvency and bankruptcy code that we have to study, and including there are rules, regulation, case laws, and case studies we have to study. So this comprises of around 63% of the total 100 marks. And there are other 14 acts like Companies Law, Negotiable Instrument Act, Contract Act, Sale of Goods Act. So all these other acts which are commercial laws, they comprise around 21% of the total syllabus, total marks. Then there are business and professional ethics also related, finance and accounting 5%, and general awareness 5%. So once you register on the IBBI site and choose the location and pay the exam fees of 1,500, then your hall ticket is ready and you can download it from the site. Now, how to prepare? So there are various IBC related books, but best is to read the BAR Act, that is called IBC Code, Rules and Regulation, which is available anywhere, and many publishers have published this, but I found a book by Taxman, BAR Act, which is priced at 875 rupees, and person should take a latest edition. Then there is another limited insolvency examination guide by Taxman. Also, it will be useful. And for the case laws, also there is a insolvency case laws by Ashish Makhija. So in short, you can take these 3 books and try to have the latest edition if possible. Now, what are the tips for the preparation? So minimum 6 hour study for at least 2 months are required. And while studying, you can underline or highlight the important dates, number of days for easy recall. And at least you have to read the entire syllabus twice. And before exam, you should not leave any topic because each mark counts. And in addition, there is you can also practice multiple choice question topic wise, and on a particular site called ICSA IIPA, these practice section questions are also given, and for each topic, that is IBC or Contract Act or Negotiable Instrument Act, there are multiple choice questions available. So it is I suggest that you practice before going for the appearing for the exam. And on the day of the exam, you have to at least arrive 45 minutes before the exam and carry hall ticket. No belongings are allowed. And preferably before the exam, you should relax and at least meditate for at least 5 minutes, and which will improve your concentration and reduce the anxiety. So on that, when you are appearing for the exam, on the screen, these facilities are allowed, where you can, when you are appearing for the exam, you can go on marking the questions you have attempted by green, and those where you are in doubt, you can mark the question in blue. And if you are not sure of the answer, then you can mark it red. And once you complete all the question, then you can review the green question which you are sure, and attempt the blue question, and leave the red question, so that at least if you are sure for 68% of the mark, then final score will be at least 60. So with this, I have covered what is the IBC and how to appear for the exam and tips for the giving the exam. So Mr. Gopal Krishnan, if you want to ask any question, you are free to ask.
So thank you, Rajesh ji, for a wonderful presentation and giving us an insight of how things are at the moment. So could you give us a brief of how things have changed during COVID, especially in terms of the number of insolvency professionals coming into the fore, in terms of being able to take up these exams? You have already mentioned that things have gone digital. So
Yes.
in terms of the IP's practicing, how have things changed, and how in terms of the NCLT, what are the changes during COVID
Yeah.
specifically?
Yeah, good question, Gopal Krishnan ji. I have already covered the theoretical aspect. Now I will tell you about practical aspect. See, as on today, there are all over India around 3,500 insolvency professional who have passed the exam and registered with IBBI. Total, there are 3,500 already there. And during this pandemic, many more roughly you can say 500 people have appeared for the exam and passed the exam, like that. Before the pandemic, the numbers were around 2,500, but you can say 500 people is not a small number, because all over India 500 people, that is a chartered accountant, cost accountant, company secretary, who have availed this opportunity and passed the exam, and now they have become insolvency professional, and they are also practicing. So like that, at any given time, any person who is eligible can pass the exam and acquire this additional qualification. And how this is relevant in today's time? During pandemic, you have seen many companies have defaulted on their loan obligation. Even individual, like suppose those who have guaranteed their loan to a corporate debtor, that means guarantor who has guaranteed a loan to the company, and company has defaulted. So all these those who are defaulted, so creditors who need to recover their money or go for resolution of their debt, they have to approach the court, and then they require the services of this insolvency professional. Even banks, NBFC, you have seen this level of NPA is increased during the pandemic for whatever reasons. So the requirement for insolvency professional has gone up. So this has opened a new area for chartered accountant, advocates, company secretary, insolvency professional, and even retired management experts or bankers to come into this field. And here, no doubt, little bit knowledge of law is also required, but that can be acquired.
Right, Rajesh ji, give us a brief practical perspective also. You've mentioned about the resolution plan, right? So could you give us what actually happens during it, and what is the hierarchy in which they try and benefit the creditors?
Yeah, see, normally once the insolvency process starts, that is CIRP starts, and the resolution professional will call for the resolution plan from resolution applicant who are interested in submitting the resolution plan. So in very common word, it is like he is asking investors to submit their plan, that I am ready to invest this amount in company, and which will take care of the existing debts of the company, and it will I will run the company, and I will try to address all the debts of the company. So that is what is the resolution plan. Okay. And for example, suppose a pharma company is there with some manufacturing installation. So if it is not making suppose profit, and they have not serviced their loans, then their assets are intact, their people are intact, their processes are intact. So any company, any other resolution applicant who sees a lot of potential in this activity, and once he is satisfied about the assets of the company, he will submit a resolution plan subject to the eligibility criteria being fulfilled. And like one resolution applicant, suppose many resolution applicant will submit a resolution plan, then committee of creditor, which is already constituted and which comprises of banks or NBFCs or authorized representative of home buyers, they will submit, they will evaluate this resolution plan, and they will choose the best resolution plan, and they will vote in favor or against of all the resolution plan. And any resolution plan which gathers 66% minimum of the vote of committee of creditor will be submitted by a resolution professional for the approval of NCLT.
Right.
Once
So what will be the
once the NCLT approves this plan, then it will be implemented, and that is how the debts of the company will be resolved. Now this entire process, minimum minimum CRP process stipulated time is 180 days, and it can be extended by 90 days, that is up to 270 days, and at the best it can be, it should be wound up within 330 days. So it is a within limited time this entire thing will be addressed. Yeah, you are asking something?
Yeah, so what is the process normally followed? I mean, as far as your experience goes, without really naming the company, would they look at debt restructuring or auctioning? What is actually followed first?
Yeah, so the resolution applicant, he will study first the information memorandum which is published by the resolution professional. So in that all asset liability and what are the resources and what are the plants, machinery, everything will be detailed. So he will study that and he will prepare a resolution plan, and then he will in the resolution plan he will say how much money he can bring in fresh to run the company, as well as if the existing debts will be whether it will be restructured or whether it will be resolved, like one time payment. For example, suppose 100 crores are outstanding loan, then he can say I will bring 60 crores, and out of this 60 crore, 20 crores I will keep for running of the company, and 40 crores I will distribute among the existing debtors. That is, each debtor will receive 40 crores upfront, and balance it will service either over a period of time or it may have to write off. So depending on the understanding of resolution applicant, the resolution plan will consist of restructuring or even one-time payment or even payment over a period of time. I hope I am clear.
Right. So thank you, Rajeshji. Any last view that you want to say, and also give us a trend as to how are the kind of cases that are coming these days?
Yeah. See, right now the many cases are going on in IBC, and RBI had identified 12 large cases at the time of inception of this code, and those 12 large cases have been resolved, and around 40% recovery is made to the lenders. And like that, thereafter many cases have been admitted, and cases are also resolved on a continuous basis. But let me tell you, not all the cases are resolved. Some cases also result in liquidation, and in liquidation the assets of company are sold under again supervision of the court, and where this resolution professional helps as a liquidator. So that is the entire thing. And second thing is about individuals. That is the individuals who have acted as a guarantor to the corporate debtor. So even cases are being filed by the lenders against the guarantors. So guarantor can be you, me, or everybody, anybody who has even given a loan, guaranteed a loan to the SME, means small and medium enterprises. So they also need to be aware of this. And one thing I will highlight, that if you in future want to give a guarantee to any company, please please study these aspects of insolvency, that in case the loan is not repaid by the company, how you can be pulled in by the insolvency and under insolvency and bankruptcy code. And if you want any more details, I have displayed on the screen my contact details and my email. I will be glad to assist you. Thank
So
you.
thank you, Rajesh ji, for giving us your perspective generally about the industry and the practice that is being followed currently. So thank you very much for joining in today.
One sec, I will stop this sharing. Yeah. So Gopalji, once again, I want to thank you for this giving me this opportunity, wonderful opportunity to address your subscribers. And in general, I want to wish you and Trend Talks a very bright future. And I wish that you cover more and more such diverse topics of interest to listeners. And in case, please, if you receive any feedback from your subscribers or viewers, please pass it on to me. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much for your time and contributing today.
Thank you.